And we're live, back again on Wednesday with the Beef and Barnzy show. Glad to be here again, and we have a show I am super excited of, and of course, the namesake of our show, Big Beef Stew.
How we doing this fine Wednesday, Chris?
Well, I think there's hope out there for those of you that want a bowl. I think there's finally a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. So.
I'm excited about Friday in Texas. We can, if we want to, we can go out and sit and go to a restaurant on Friday. We can go to the mall. Yeah, there's a few things opening up in Texas, so that should be a little bit exciting, at least for a couple of weeks until we see the results of what it means.
Yeah, for sure. We have a couple of things we want to say out there to a couple of our fans. One of them is a birthday of a former PWBA player's son.
Yeah, RJ, happy 18th birthday, RJ Davis. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry that your 18th birthday is leaving you cooped up, but thanks for tuning in, and I hope Joe can provide some entertainment for you.
Well, and speaking of that, we're bringing on a guy. Man, I've been looking forward to this show for a while. I've heard a few of these stories over the years at Camp Bakes. If you're a fan of PBA history, there's a couple of parts. There's obviously the shows that you see with Earl and Marshall and Mark Roth, but this is the part I don't think you've heard before, and we're gonna catch some of these. This guy is a 4-time titleist. He's been a Bowler's Journal All-American. This is a little known fact that. We're going to go with he still owns the record for the high 3-game set in Da Nang, Vietnam in Army boots. So a 770 in Army boots. He is currently somehow not in any Hall of Fames, although I did hear Da Nang was going to have a special ceremony here in the next 6 months and have him and induct him. I think he probably enjoyed his time on tour more than anyone in history, and we're about to hear the stories about why. The eternally shy Joe Hutchinson.
Hi, guys. What's up?
Hey, Joe. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Stuart. My pleasure. Chris, nice intro. I mean, I hope they paid you enough to make up them lines.
Well, I hear how Bakes treats you at his camp, so I thought I'd actually, try and do you a solid this one time. So.
Chris, little thing. The series in Vietnam, God's honest truth, there was only 2 bowling centers in Vietnam. One was in Saigon, and one was in Da Nang. I bowled in Saigon when I was on an in-country R&R. I bowled there. Da Nang was on the Marine base, right? I was in the Army. We had to go through an off-limits area called Dog Patch. You had to thumb a ride to get through it. It was all very friendly people. Anyway, we go to the other side, right? And I walked in, and I couldn't believe it, but they had a 20-lane bowling center. And the pins were being set by the Vietnamese, the Mama Sans and the Papa Sans and everything. And I watched. And there was a guy there actually throwing his own bowling ball. He had his own bowling ball, and he was from the Air Force. So, the next day I came back, and the guy had left for home that day, God's honest truth, left his bowling ball on the rack. It was an AMF 3-dot. I pick it up, and as luck would have it, it fits me. I bowl. They didn't have bowling shoes. There were the approaches. There was nothing scuffing them, or just wood. I don't know if they use oil on the lanes or vinegar. I'm not really sure. And the first ball that I threw, I didn't realize I picked the ball up and threw it again. And the Mama San hadn't got out of the pit yet. And they thought that I threw the ball at her, trying to hurt her. And all 20 of them came up on the side, like almost on strike. And the SFC, this gunny sergeant, told him, he said, "You got to get back to work. It was a mistake." And I did bowl 770 something with that ball. I signed the sheet and I put it on. I said, "Joe Hutchinson, I said, Scranton, Pennsylvania, B Company Special Troops, blah, blah, blah." The next day, I get a knock on the door. I'm laying there on my cot, and I go, "Who is it?" And the voice goes, "Hutch." He said, "It's Murray." Murray who? Murray goes, "So who's Murray?" He said, "John Murray." Murray, a guy that I went to school with from kindergarten to 12th grade. He was there with the Marines, the first Marine Division. He walked in there, saw that sheet, found out where I was, and came down, and we spent the rest of the day together. 3 weeks later, he rotated back stateside.
Well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the world's pretty big, but you'd be surprised how small it can be too at times.
Yeah, bowling definitely brings us all together. That's a really cool story. That
It was
even on the other side of the world, in
Mhm.
Vietnam, you've got to see one of your buddies who you didn't even know was there.
No, and just the way, you know, when he knocked on the door, oh, Hutch, it's Murray. Oh, yeah. All right. You know, I mean, it could have been someone robbing me. I went over and just opened the door, you know, but I mean, when I looked at him, I mean, it's my face just hit the floor. I said, well, you know, it's a touchy time for me with that. But one of the things before I left to go overseas, the bowling center where I grew up at was Greenridge Lanes in Scranton, and I wouldn't go to MIT before I go to that bowling center because the people in there were all people that learned the hard way, you know, all common sense degrees, guys from the old country and everything. I don't think there was anyone there that had a high school diploma. And one of the guys that I went to school with was a guy named George Avery, and I was playing him pool before we left. And when I got over there, and we got in some heavy stuff a couple times, and I remember one time we had to be airlifted out by helicopters. And this is really what it gets crazy. Is as when it was my turn to run to the helicopter, I go to the helicopter, and the guy pulling me in the helicopter was George Avery. So 8 months later, I get home. I walk into Greenridge Lanes, and George is playing pool. He was home before me. I went up and I shook his hand the same way that I shook it then. And I said to him, a little different this time. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing the way the world's changed but stayed the same.
Yeah, like, well, what did the Sylvester Stallone say in Rocky Balboa about? He says the world's changing. No, just the clothes. You know, you got to. You know, every once in a while, the movies have great lines in them.
How long were you on tour, Joe?
I went on tour in 1975. I was 26 years old. I only bowled 4 tournaments that year. I just started, and I was off and on until about 92, 17 years. And I mean, I was. Mark asked us one time at the camp how many tournaments we bowled. I wasn't sure, and I gave him some crazy number. He looked at me, really? I said, no, I don't even know. And when I went back, I think I just bowled around 400 because I was, you know, I had a peculiar way of letting the ball. My swing was self-taught, obviously, and it just led to injury after the first, I guess, 100,000 games or whatever. You know, when you don't have a coach, no one's watching you, and you know, and you're having success, and everybody, you know, it was just crazy. But boy, when it started to go, it went, and I kept trying to come back with shots and pills and, you know, injections. Yeah, when damage was done, it's good now. Just the rest of me shot.
Well, I think he has a little video teed up. We can see it.
Yeah.
What's going on?
All right.
Thanks for the heads up, Chris. I appreciate it. Yeah.
He's actually a producer here. I don't really do much. I just kind of.
This is Cleveland. Yeah. Yeah, real short swing, muscle swing. No, excuse me, that's Peoria. At one time, my swing was actually my backswing was perpendicular to the floor.
So this is actually the final of the 1980
AMF Magic
Tour Open.
Yeah, it's Bill Coleman. Yeah.
I'm a history guy, and I don't actually even know that one. So,
Bill Coleman won twice on tour, and he was from California. Mark will say later he was a very good bowler, rock solid guy. Made probably half a dozen 10 shows. I don't know, but you know, but he was terrific, and he traveled with his wife Janelle and the couple of kids they had. I heard that Bill passed away, which is kind of bad because he was a good guy. Now you just seen when I went off camp, the guy went off camera, Jimmy Certain. He was going to leave the tour that week to become the house pro at Landmark Lanes in Peoria.
You have a you have a follow through that's not a million miles away from mine, there, Joe.
Well, short backswing, short follow through parts. You know, Carter, one of the greatest of all time, had no backswing, he had no follow through. He just pushed it. You got that. If you have that long swing like Pete Weber had at one time, then you have a high follow through. It's short and bingo. Yeah. There's a lot of muscle
down the lane. You don't need to look pretty, do you, Joe?
A lot of muscle, man. A lot of muscle in that swing. I paid for it for a long time.
Hudson already beat Jim Godman, a couple of guys from the annals of history that could get it done for sure.
I I can tell you something crazy about this, Chris, is that the night before I'm the leader with the game to go.
There you go. Just one.
And I'm
240.
And I'm bowling on the one pair in the house that I can't hit to save my life. And Bill Coleman shoots 220 and I bowl like 180 and he beats me and he goes by me. Jim Godman shoots 260, the position round game. And in the 10th frame of the last game, 10th frame of the game, I leave the 245 and I'm trying till the end to save the game for a deuce. And I leave the 245. And I get so disgusted, I sort of just pick the ball up and fire it at the spare. And I make it. Because I make that spare, I hold on to second place by less than 10 pins. So I wouldn't have bowled the lineup that I had I not made the spare.
See, it's not that different.
So it all worked out pretty good. Yeah.
That's true. So who all did you room with out on tour?
Well, my first roommate was John Wilcox. And he later on was traveling with Tommy Hudson. But John was a sweetheart, and John's a great bowler. He's a great amateur record, and he went on the pro tour and won multiple regionals. But John was a home guy, a hunting, fishing guy, and dogs and stuff like that. And somehow, don't ask how, I got tied up with Tommy Baker, and it was one of the greatest things that ever happened in my life. When I first met Tommy, we're bowling the tournament in New Jersey, the Great Adventure Open, and he's bowling next to me in qualifying. He's from Buffalo's. He's so quiet, Tommy, that he would make Marcel Marceau look like a blabbermouth. Okay, so he's crossing with Earl, and at the start of the tournament, everybody's watching Earl. By the middle of the last block of qualifying, everybody's watching Tommy. That's how he's striking. And I'm reaching out, giving my hand, nice game, and all, you know. And I come home one day from the bowling center. My mother says to me, "You got a phone call from a guy from Buffalo. Who can it be?" It's Tom Baker. He called me on the phone. I said, "I bowl next to him. He never even said hello to me." You know, and he calls me on the phone, and he says to me that his sponsor, a gentleman named Freddie Saya, who I could really tell you some great stories about Freddie. Freddie was aces, regardless of what you ever hear. He was aces. I got to know him really, really personally. And he said, "My sponsor just bought me a new car, a Buick Regal. I'll come down, get you. We'll go." And it was 6 years, and we won the doubles. We were alternate one year to the show at the doubles. I think we came in eighth or 1 year, another year 12th. We only missed cash and making the cut to the finals one time. That was strictly on my fault. My arm was just giving me a hell of a time, and I just bowled anyway, you know. But Tommy, greatness was due him. I mean, you know, he's in all the halls of fame, and he's supposed to be. His first year on the senior tour, he was the rookie year and the player of the year. He was player of the year the first year, 4 years he was out there. And you can, when Bakes comes on later, and if you ever come back to the camp and you talk to David and the guys, you can say to them, whose ball would you put up for the ability to strike at a slow speed against anybody? I would put Tommy Baker's, when he was striking, I would put him up against anybody. And now, not the guys today because of the way the pins go, but Tommy's ball kept the pins low, and he had the ability to strike. It was phenomenal. He was phenomenal, and he always looked like he was loosening up. You know, when you throw them first few balls, and you're nice and loose, and you come back, all of a sudden you know, your foot speed goes up, your ball speed goes up, you start throwing the ball through the. Tommy very seldom ever threw the ball through the break point.
Who'd you room with after Tommy?
There was a couple guys in between. I roomed with Pete Couture, Jimmy Pritz. I roomed a little bit with Warren Nelson, Jimmy Polis. I made friends with everybody, so I really didn't have any trouble finding a roommate. And then all of a sudden, you know, my life changes a little bit. I'm bowling in Milwaukee, red carpet celebrity in the Miller, and I'm following a gentleman named Charlie Tapp. And I asked him the one time he's coming off the pair, and I said, "How much difference between this pair and the last pair?" Of course, you had to say that on the QT at the time, or they take your firstborn. So anyway, he says something to me to the extent like, "Well, this pair is this lane is this lane is that." Well, I didn't realize that Charlie, you know, threw the ball pretty straight. I mean, I don't know how straight, but I know probably William Tell's arrow went a little straighter. But I mean, you know, so Charlie played everything around 10, and I was very seldom around 10 at the time. I was just a little deeper. But anyway, we struck up a friendship. He's in Minneapolis, and I'm in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and our senses of humor are almost identical. And we we hit it off would be one of the great understatements. The last time the understatement of that grandeur was said was when Custer's second in command said to him, "Sir, look over there." He said, "I think they're friendly Indians." Understatement. The last. Are we blotted out?
There you go. No, we lost you for just a second. You're good.
Yeah, it's okay. But I mean, so Charlie and I hit it off. We roomed. Same sense of humor. Look at something and just see it crazy, zany. Happened to be in the right place at the right time. I can't tell you. You know, they say about location and timing and stuff like that. I mean, just happened to be there when bizarre things were going on. And my ability to embellish the story, you know, I love telling somebody what I saw through my eyes. My eyes. I try to keep it as close as I can to the truth, but you know, sometimes you just, you know, what makes
just
the story great.
Get in the way, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Never let the truth spoil a good story.
No. At the end of the movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the guy says, when the truth becomes bigger than the legend, print the legend. Yeah, I understand.
Now, you spent a little time on the road with the guy who's been on this show before, Mark Baker. He's part of you're part of that camp.
Mark and I had almost more fun than we should have. Mark was a great roommate. He was a kid. Mark was bowling the PTQs. Well, we used to call them the Rabbit Squads when I met him. And there was kind of a thing where the exempt players, you know, felt like their nose was in the air sometimes. And you're talking to someone who was bowling the PTQs. The guy said, "What are you talking to him for? He's not even in the tournament." And so I forget, Mark can tell us exactly where, but we were going between stops on a summer tour, I believe. And I'm passing him out on the highway. And he looks at me. And I just made a gesture to him. "Do you want to go get something to eat?" And he goes, "Yeah." And we pulled over. I think it was a Wendy's. And we've been friends ever since.
Man, if you'd have taken me to a Wendy's, I'm not sure I'd have been friends with you for much longer.
Oh, no, because I'd have wound up washing dishes after I ran out of money. I understand that, Stu. You're okay, Stu.
But did you ever take Bakes to see your mom?
My mother loved Mark. Of course, she loved Warren Nelson. And when Warren Nelson left the house, she said to me, "Joseph, that young man you brought is one of the most polite persons I've ever been around in my life, but don't ever bring him back here again." Anyway, Mark, being born, I think Mark was born in Tennessee, Chris, and he moved to Los Angeles. So a little story before my mom, we went up to Tommy Baker's daughter's birthday in Buffalo. Second floor apartment, beautiful place. And Mark, we're standing around looking, you know, waiting. And I look at he looks at over at me and he says to me, "Hey, Hutch, what's that thing on the floor?" So I start looking around, you know, and I "What thing?" He says, "That silver thing over there on the floor." I said, "That's a radiator." He goes, "What?" I said, "It's a radiator." Because in LA, all they have is baseboard heat. He said, "What does it do?" I said, "Well, it heats the room." He goes, "You're kidding me." He said, "I've never seen one before." This is God's honest truth. So Tommy walks out. And I said to Tom, I said, "Tell Mark what that silver thing is over there on the floor." And Tom looks around, he goes, "What silver thing?" Just like he's heard it from me. I go, "That thing there." He says, "It's a radiator." I said, "What do you think I was lying to you? What, do you think they're only in cars?" Mark's a beautiful guy. Mark's a beautiful guy. So he comes to my house. My house is, at the time, is 80 years old. And it's built on coal mines. Scranton, Pennsylvania, Northeast Pennsylvania is famous for anthracite coal. It's only found in two places in the world, there and in Germany. And I think the Nazis got most of that when they were burying the French artwork. But anyway, I always said if I ever got a house, I wanted two things only in the house: a refrigerator door that stayed open and a bathroom door that stayed closed. And the refrigerator door, Stu, you'd walk in, like, get the orange juice. If you didn't get out of there quick, you were back in the French Revolution. You were guillotined. All right. Now, my mother, after my dad passed away, she rearranged the house, and so she had like a little sitting room. Well, the sitting room happened, and where the television was in it, there was a couch and a rocker, and the bathroom happened to be right next door to the television. And my mom used to sit there. And so Mark, walking him through the house, showing him different things. And I said, "It's the bathroom." And right away he goes, "Where's the shower head?" I said, "Well, we don't take a shower." He says, "What do you mean you don't take a shower?" I said, "Take a bath." He says to me, Hutch, I haven't taken a bath since my mother gave me a bath. I said, well, I can't promise you that my mother will give you a bath, but, you know. He said, well, how do you take a bath? This is the truth. And I said, well, you fill the tub kind of halfway. You know, you sit in there. And I said, and see the cup over there? I said, yeah, you pour the water on your hair. I said, we're not going to go play in any mud, so we shouldn't be really that dirty if we take one. I said, and when you're done, you use the shampoo, and then you rinse it out and then you wash the rest of your body. You know, he goes, oh, all right. I said, now here's the thing. I said, sometimes the door, I said, has trouble staying closed. They said it catches sometimes, but up above was a little clip lock. I said, so always put that on. Okay, no problem. So I'm in the kitchen having something, going to get something out of the refrigerator, being very careful about that door. And Mark says to me, Hutch, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take a bath. You know, knock yourself out. Okay. So I hear the door shut. My mother's watching television. And from the rocker, you got a better angle into the bathroom than you do the television. A truck goes by outside and the house shakes because it's hollow underneath. And the door, the icebox door came down and it shut and then it opened again. It shook so hard. And I said, well, no big deal. I'm not thinking about nothing. I walk out and hear the door to the bathroom had opened. And Mark had washed his hair. Of course, Mark's got the full deck still. And he decided that the cup wasn't enough. So he's on all fours and he has his head under the water. And I'm looking at this toothless smile, right? And I've got to say one thing. He had a very low chin. But anyway, that's another thing. But anyway, I yell, Mark, and he picks his head up like the water buffaloes do out on the National Geographic Channel, right? And he starts shaking his hair and it's all over the place. And he looks at me, and I mean, you seen me when I took my sock down, how white my legs are? And that's how white he got. And my mother had the TV guide right here over her eyes. And all she said was this, don't worry, Mark. She said, I didn't see a thing. And I went back and I said to my Mark, for the rest of the time that I saw him, I said, from that day on, as long as my mother was alive, every time there was a full moon, she had an involuntary twitch in her left eye. And that's the guy's, and he came, you know, he puts the clip on the door. Now he has to walk out of the thing, you know, and he's like, he said, your mother's something. I said, don't worry. I said, don't worry about that. I said, what we're worried about is that, you know, is the testicular problem you have, like, you know, that you look like a German Shepherd from the back. That's all that scares me. But just, you know, crazy, man. But my mom loved Mark. My mom loved him.
Well, speaking of that, now that we know that he didn't leave just a moon over Miami, he also loved Scranton.
Oh, Scranton was before Miami. Speaking of him now, Lieutenant Mark Bakerberg. Yes.
There you go.
Hey, look who's in the house here. Charlie Tapp's in the house.
No.
Yeah.
Peter Griffin. Yeah. Can you hear us?
He's listening.
Hey, Chuckles, listen, I listened to your Hall of Fame speech. Nice you're using me. That's plagiarism. I mean, Mark Baker can tell you. So tell him about that NAFTA case you had with Panama by the Van Halen or whatever. That music used to play. You needed a good beating. You needed a beating, Mark.
Why don't you tell him about the story you guys were eating together?
Pardon?
I said everything worth listening to was worth listening to louder.
You were an advocate of that. Mark comes to my house and we're in the car and he's going to drive and he says to me, guess what? Look what station I found, Joe. He found a Rock 107. And I said to him, you found it. It's been there the whole time. I said, but here's what we listened to. And I turned it to another station. And he's just like, hey, God damn it. I said, hey, Mark. I mean, it was, I'm 70. The 10 years is gigantic. But I must say, Mark, I'm starting to like Led Zeppelin.
There you go. Greatest band of all time.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far, but they're in the top 3.
There you go.
You got a Charlie Tapp story?
What's that?
Pardon?
Joe, you got a Charlie Tapp story? Charlie
Tapp. My God Almighty. Charlie and I were. Oh, okay. Oh, I got a great one. Yeah, I'm glad Charlie's listening. We're bowling Gable House, and Charlie gets an attack of hemorrhoids. Okay, we're staying at the Jumpin' Jack. Remember the Jumpin' Jack Motel down there? We're staying there. He wakes me up out of a sound sleep. He's really in tremendous amount of pain. He said, Joe, I got to go to the hospital. I think something's wrong. Okay. We go to the hospital, whatever the one was on Hawthorne, Mark. There was a hospital on Hawthorne. We go there in the emergency room. It's, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. And they take Charlie in and they actually lanced them and packed them off. I mean, this was bad. He comes out and I am sound asleep in the lounge. He's in unbelievable pain, okay? And he walks over and he picks me up and he's carrying me out. I'm on his shoulder. And somebody's coming in the emergency room and looks at Charlie and says to him, I hope your friend makes it. And Charlie said, oh, don't worry. I'm pretty sure he will. And he drives me back to the hotel. I'm sleeping. It's hard to believe, Mark, that I sleep in a car. But anyway, yeah. He drives me back. We go to Vegas the next week. And honest to God, he had to withdraw and go home. But Charlie, I mean, if he's listening to that, he'll remember that. He's actually carrying me out, and he is really in pain.
What about the one where they're waiting in line at the buffet?
No, that was Baker Square.
No? Okay.
Oh, you mean that was the Baker Square one? Yeah, Charlie said that. I was telling him. First of all, the line isn't mine; it's Rodney's. Okay. But how many times do you hear a great comedian on TV, and you're ever going to get a chance to use one of his punchlines? You know, and I'm in line. We're waiting to pay, and we're waiting to pay. Marker going in.
No, we're waiting to pay. It's me, you, Charlie, and Husted.
And
Baker Square in Cleveland.
Yeah, I I feel every once in a while I have a problem with them. You know. So anyway, I thought I could just sneak one out. And I did for about 3 seconds, and all of a sudden it sounded like someone took my pants off and ripped them in half, right? And I go like, oh my God, you know, and this guy behind me, big guy, probably he's as big as you, I don't know, is he big? Well, compared to me, everybody's a big. He goes to me, hey, you just farted. And I said to him, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. And then he goes like this to me. Well, what? He's flustered, and he looks like he wants to hit me. And then all of a sudden he goes like this to me. Yeah, and you farted in front of my wife. And I looked at him, and I just in an instant, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was her turn. And the situation just completely disarmed itself. And we all looked, these guys were all laughing. And he just, remember how quiet he got? He didn't know what to say.
He did, because the wife started laughing.
Oh, the wife thought it was. But, and then we got outside. He said, well, how'd you think? Charlie said to me later on in the room, where'd you get that? I said, Rodney said it one time. And I said, I just happened to, it came to my mind in that instant, you know? The
best part from my end, I think I had lost at the numbers game at lunch, so I had to buy the bill. And so when Hutch said that, the guy at Baker Square taking the money, he started laughing so hard, he just ran in the kitchen. So that was my only dine and dash in my career. I didn't even have, the guy wouldn't take the money. The guy working there was laughing so hard, he just kind of walked out. It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, the numbers games were a tremendous amount of fun, especially if you're playing with Stonehands Pete Coutre, because we'd play 3 games, he'd lose all 3, he'd go outside, he'd have his lips around the exhaust pipe, and he'd go, Hutch, start it. I can't, Pete, I can't do that to you. You know, he was beautiful. He was a beautiful guy. But you know, you get stories about. Yeah, how about I roomed with Jimmy Keith for one fall tour? All right, and Jimmy Keith
seemed like peas in a pod.
Yeah, he was. Jimmy had some problems. But he wasn't a bad guy. But he was mad all the time. He was mad when he woke up in the morning. I mean, I get up in the morning. Needless to say, Mark, I'm usually really ready to go when I wake up. And I'd be doing something, maybe whatever, exercise. He'd get up, he'd throw this robe on, and he'd stomp by me like he was trying to put his feet through the floor. I'm trying to sleep. Shut up, Jimmy. Okay. We lasted the whole fall though. And I was really, down when I heard that he passed away. But he was like a precursor of the game of today, wouldn't you say, Mark?
He definitely threw it different. When he first came on tour, very rarely does somebody throw it in practice session where other guys stop and watch.
Absolutely.
The first 3 shots he threw warming up, I mean, 10 guys stopped watching like, what is that? Nobody ever rolled it up on their wrist and thrown it that hard.
Yeah,
And
Mattingly did, but
he threw it slow.
Mattingly did, but he slow rolled it. Yeah.
Jimmy threw it Mach 1 and hit it. That was, when he came on tour, Amleto, Chris Warren, certain guys came out, you'd never seen that before. So those were the guys that really could hook it.
Yeah.
And speaking of Jimmy, you were a workout guy, right? And you spent a little time with Roth.
Yeah.
I got it.
You guys
can I throw that story in there?
How did you guys get ready to bowl?
Go ahead, Mark.
The three of us were rooming together one fall. And it was when Mark's heyday, so he was basically in the top 5 every week. I know that sounds funny, but he was that good. So
Yes.
Hutch and I and Mark would room together, and Hutch was a workout guy. So Hutch had the bar, you would roll your wrist up, and he would do the sit-ups, and he did all these calisthenics, and he'd do them in these blue dolphin shorts, super high white socks, and so the room wouldn't get messy. He would put newspapers on the ground, so as he sweat, because he's wearing that red sweater at all times, that red sweater never comes off. So when he was working out, he would start sweating and rip the sweat off his forehead and throw it on the newspaper. So, I'm trying to sleep off probably a hangover back in the 80s. Mark's over there on the table in his little white, Batman shorts, in his typical, morning regiment. He's got a cup of coffee, a pack of smokes, and chocolate donuts. So he's getting ready for A Squad. Hutch is over there working out. Mark would just be smoking those cigarettes. You're looking at him. So we go like 1 week, Mark wins. I'm 6th. Joe's 24th.
Don't get smart. I was 23rd.
Yeah, next week I'm like 5th. Mark's 3rd. Joe's 23rd.
That's better.
So the next week we're getting there, and Joe's working out again. And there's Roth smoking that cigarette. And the first thing he said, he goes, "I've been watching you work out. Doesn't that make you tired? How are you supposed to bowl later?" So we're laughing, and then be back in the room, and Hutch is working out. Finally, Roth looks over. He goes, "That working out's doing a lot for you. Maybe this week you do a few more sit-ups. You get all the way to 22nd."
Yeah, that was one. But I told him the one where I'm rooming with him in Kansas City, and Mark's the leader after qualifying, and I'm 150 pins behind him, like I'm in 7th. And you remember Sam Lomeo, my sponsor, right?
Yep.
Mark. So I call him and he said, "How'd you do?" And I told him, I said, "I'm 150 pins behind the guy over here in the corner." He said, he said, "Mark," he says to me, "try your best to stay 150, behind him at the end, right?" So he has the Hostess cupcakes with the cream filling and the cigarette, and he had the can of Coke and the cigarette in the same hand, and the other one he'd bite the donut. So I got my feet underneath the bed and I'm doing sit-ups. And Mark leans over, and he's with that, he's like this. "Hutchie, what are you doing?" "We're getting ready. We're getting ready to go over and bowl on Thursday night." I said, "I'm just doing some stuff just to, loosen up." He takes a bite out of the thing. The smoke's coming out of his nose. He's doing everything at the same time, right? And I'm looking at him. Finally, he looks over. He says to me, he moves. He goes, "Hi, your back's a little stiff. How about doing a couple of them for me?" By the end of the tournament, I was 400 behind him. I wound up in 7th or 8th, and he led. That's the tournament then when Berardi ran the ladder and Mark beat him in the championship match.
Seems like a great segue into Friday. We're going to have Heather Derrico, the PBA's workout consultant, come on and talk about how to get in shape as we get back to bowling. So,
I tell you what, myself and Tommy always worked out. We always found someplace to jog or do something. Even Frank Ellenberg started working out. But then a lot of the guys who spend nothing but their time in the bar and doing this and doing that would win. And I remember one time Frank Ellenberg, God bless him, said to me, he goes, "I'm seriously thinking of trading in these weights for them beer cans." He said, or that Crown Royal and Coke. I said, "Frank, got to stay the course. Got to stay the course." We stayed the course. Tommy got to the Hall of Fame. Frank and I are, well, Frank's in a couple Halls of Fame. I should move to Arizona. Maybe I'd get in one.
There you go.
But then I didn't bowl I bowl out there. Yeah, but I mean, there were a lot of guys that come out of the bar 2 or 3 in the morning. They were blasted. Come in the next morning and they were like Tarzan. They were ready to fight a lion. It was just amazing. But when I went out there, Chris, in '75, very few guys had college degrees. I can't remember if anybody did.
When I came back in '98, it was pretty much the same. So
yeah, and I mean, it's just
It was also guys.
Everybody grew up around beer and bowling. The guys, they were all, the old guys. All the first Hall of Famers were all there when I came out.
You have, I hear there's an Indy pencil story.
Oh God,
it's terrible. Well,
man, I'm not sure you can do it without the visual, but we can give it a shot.
All right.
I mean, this is for Sam Macarone, who's probably been telling this story in Philadelphia and Jersey for the last 34 years, and nobody ever believes him. This really happened. This story really happened.
Okay, so let me set this up.
No, this sign says no story is best left untold. So
okay, so let me set this up for you, right? Till this day, you and I are rooming. Till this day, I leave the 610, and I couldn't go for a colonoscopy that day because you can't get inside. I mean, it's just till this day. Okay. So anyway, I was going through one of these real severe rashes of taking the 6 straight off the 10, regardless of where I threw it. Efren Reyes couldn't have made it, banking it off something. But anyway, I just have this one block where I'm chopping it repetitively, and then it gets to the point where now it's all I can see myself leaving if I don't hit the pocket. And needless to say,
we're crossing together.
Yes, me, you, and Sam.
Me, you, Sam, and the fourth bowler doesn't matter because he's not part of the story.
Yeah, but we don't even know who it is anyway.
Yeah. So the first game, and I'm in my little run of 3 years where I could actually bowl pretty good, and I'm making the finals pretty much every week, or it seems like it.
Yep.
And I'm rolling the 2-pin before Tommy Jones owned it. So I'm rolling 2s and tripping 4s in the 9, the 10th every match. So I shoot like 270, and it was really a 180 game. Hutch gets up in the 10th of the first game of that night in Woodland Bowl, so there's no lanes. There's nobody bowling next to us.
Right.
Woodland was 80 lanes, all good. I punch out for 270. Hutch follows me. He's not a chance to shoot a big game. He 6-10s the 10th. He gets up, and before he shoots it, I tell Sam Macarone he can't make these to save his life. 10th frame, first game, chops it right off. No big deal.
No, not for you.
Yeah, for me, I'm doing the scores 279 plus
sure,
400.
absolutely.
I'm good. So we go to the next pair. I shoot a 250 with another ugly 10th frame. Hutch has a chance to shoot 250. He gets up in the 10th. Unbelievable. He leaves a 6-10 again. Sammy Macarone looks at me and goes, "No way. Watch this. Clean. 6 off the 10, game 2.
Consistency is the mark of a champion.
Now we go to game 3. I throw it all a lot. I end up shooting 800 the first 3 games. Don't really bowl that well. It's just going well. Hutch has a chance to shoot another 250. He gets up in the 10th. Unbelievably, for the 3rd time in a row on a 3-bagger, he 6-10.
That's right.
So now there's no way he can miss this 3 times in a row.
Impossible. It's impossible.
He gets up, and as soon as the ball leaves his hand, he bites it. He screams in the 6-8-9. He just screams no as loud as he can, and he bites his hand. No! And the 6 takes a 6 right off the 10. Unbelievable. So now the story starts. So Stu, you bowl Woodland. Chris, you bowl Woodland. How far back are the stands from where the ball returns are?
A ways.
15 feet? 10, 15 feet?
Well, 10.
So
I know about it.
Hutch comes back. He's standing there, and he's on fire. So the pencils, back in the old days, the pencils are there. He grabs a pencil, you put it between your joints of your finger, and he's grabbing it, holding it down by his, hamstring, and he snaps it. And this is before the movie The Matrix came out, but this really happened. So I'm on one side of lane 47 and 8. Sammy Mack is on the other. So one's on 47, one's on 48. The pencil flies between us and starts doing the Matrix. Whoosh, whoosh. It goes 12 feet in the air, up, back in the stands, and it hits this lady right between the eyes. And to this day, Sammy and I both agreed that the pencil stuck there for about 10 seconds.
Well,
she looked up and crossed her eyes and looked at it. And then the pencil fell. So now Sam is done for the story because he's now under the settee on the ground crying. He's no more help. I can't stop laughing. Hutch is bright red. So I come over to him, and the lady's husband jumps up, and I think he's going to come down the lanes and go after Hutch.
I think my counselor's on the
time. I had a few fines in my day. I had a little temper. I'm trying to put my arm around Hutch, my buddy, my bro, my roommate.
Yeah.
And I say, when you calm down, all he heard was, calm down. So he tells me off. We walk away. So I come back like 2 minutes later. I went, no. When you calm down, you're not going to believe it. You know that pencil you broke? Yeah. You hit a lady right between the eyes. You can take the rest.
So I was doing the scores, and I put my score in, of course, and then I snapped the pencil. And Mark was telling you, I snapped it down towards the floor. Now this, I didn't snap it. I didn't get my hand and push it backwards, straight down. So he tells me that. Well, of course, that's impossible. You know what I mean? He's just, So we get to the next pair, and him and Sam are still hysterical. You know, and I've got 3 games in a row now where, you know, what do you got in your hand going to the 10th, like 247? How can you make it 212? Watch, let me show you. Okay, so anyway, I go over and I say to him, like, you know, no uncertain terms, this is really nothing right. Hey, you guys having a good time? No. Went back and like, shut up. And so they come over and say, take a look at the guy looking at you. And I turn around, there's a guy staring at me. And I mean, he's giving me the hard eyes, and I'm thinking to myself, wow. He said, yeah, the lady next to him. It hit her between the eyes, and it actually stayed there for a split second before it fell off. Like, you gotta be, you know, well, I'll go down. Let me go down and smooth this guy out. I go down and I go like this. I said, excuse me, but my friends told me that that pencil I broke, it came back and struck your wife. And he looks at me just like this. He goes, between the eyes it hit her. Right between the eyes. I went like, well, sir, you got to understand that I couldn't have done that on purpose. You're right. It's an accident. He looks, he goes, you almost blinded her. He said, and he's going crazy. And he's staring, and I'm like, sir, I'm sorry. I didn't, I'm getting flustered. And after I apologized like 3 or 4 times, he's still in the rant. I said to him, look, I think I'm going to blow you. You're wrong. I said, I'm sorry. And I walk away. Okay, so I come back, and he's still. So here comes Smitty, and he comes down. He's always.
Smitty is Harry Smith, the assistant tournament director, one of the greatest guys, 10-time Hall of Fame, 10-time PBA winner, Hall of Famer, one of the best of all time, the greatest guy ever.
He comes walking down. He's come down. He sees us. He looks at Bakes. Goes, hey Bakes, how you doing, Sammy? Hutchie, what's up, pal? You know, he's coming with this little dance he's doing, and I get him on the shoulders, and he is looking at the guy. He doesn't know it yet. And I explained everything. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I said, if you go by that guy and he tells you the story, just give me the slip for $100 and I'll pay it. Don't worry about it. But I told him the story of what happened. And when I was telling him, I said, it's stuck here between the eyes. Here's Smitty. You're kidding. He goes, Hutchie. You know, he looks over, right? And there was actually a dot there, like a needle point. It did hit her there. So anyway, when I told him how I apologize, all of a sudden before I could say anything, he looks at me, he says, I see, babe, sounds like you did your best. What did he expect you to do? Blow him? So these guys hear it. Bakes and Sammy hear it. Now they lose it again. So Smitty goes sashaying by like he had this, you know, and the guy didn't say a word to him. But that's the God's honest truth. That happened. I don't know about the 10-second, but I know it hit it because when he said that to me, as I was talking to the guy, I was looking at the lady. She wasn't saying a word, but there was a dot there, like a needle point had put it there. That's the truth.
Kirk doesn't handle it quite the same way these days, but
yeah. Well, the pencils do. Everybody uses ink pens now, but just
so that's the famous Indianapolis pencil story. So Sammy Mack, that was for you. It really did happen. So all your buddies on the East Coast, you weren't making it up, Sammy Mack.
Yeah, he's Sam. Remember the one clinic we were at there for a long time ago for Ebonite
at Laurel Lanes.
Yeah, you were out there, and Sam had me and Mark come over after. It was about 25, 30 guys. He says, you got to tell them this story because none of them believe me.
None of them believe it.
And then we tell him, and then the one guy tells me outside, he says, Jesus, it sounded like a record. He says, sound like, but just what Sam said. He was there. He saw it. You can't make that up. I mean, geez, I could hit the lady between the eyes. I couldn't put the ball between the 6'10". I couldn't even go, Chris, the other 1/8 of an inch left and take it that way. I mean, accuracy has always been one of my fortes.
That's absolutely hallmark. Judging by that struck back from some of those strikes, you weren't afraid to hit your target a little bit.
Oh, yeah, especially key ones when it goes broken trips to 6. Mark, we didn't tell him. I make the show in Anaheim that year. Remember? And I'm bowling you. You remember what happened in the 10th frame? Oh, no, you'll remember soon. You'll remember as soon as I say. Mark's local guys. He got the following there. Of course, Gable House was even better for you, right? And we're bowling it, and I come up in the 10th frame, and I think I needed a mark to shut him out to win the game, and I throw the ball, and I miss the head pin. I leave the washout. Just coming back. I leave the washout, and something hits the 10. Okay, 1, 2, 4. As I turn around to walk away, I don't see this. All of a sudden, he jumps up, No, you know, Chris, you know the way. No, I turned around. There's no pin. Something at the 4 and the dominoed, and I get the strike. And the game's over. What do you say after? Geez, I didn't mean it. He's living. He goes in the paddock after you lucky bet. He's going crazy. Oh yeah. I mean, after that, we wound up rooming. It was a wonderful thing.
I don't know how you guys handled it, but if it had been Tommy and it did, I would just turn around and say, "Good, clean living."
Yeah.
There you go.
Or what would you say?
Way to work.
Nice
Way to
score.
work.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good score.
Yeah, good score.
Chris, I think you brought this one on yourself. How would Kirk have handled that?
It might have. Well, he wouldn't have started with that quote. I'm almost certain.
Smitty was all right.
Oh, Harry.
Smitty was a bowler. So if you had it happened to me in Chicago, if anything happens behind you, the noise doesn't matter. You have to bowl. So we're bowling the World Open, and I'm like game 7 of the semifinal round, and I'm like 22nd or 23rd. I finally got an easy pair, 39 and 40 over there in Chicago, and I got 5 or 6 going to the 10th. I get up on lane 40, the last lane, and as I go to throw it, that door right there to go to the truck, somebody opened it, and the sound went off. So I leave like a 4-pin, makeable. But I complained, hey, that caught me. But the rule was, it doesn't matter, he doesn't catch you. But if it's Harry Gold, the tournament director, I'd have shot the 4-pin.
Absolutely.
Smitty comes down. Here's how great of a guy he was. Well, it happened. I give him the story. He goes, well, you need this one to make the finals. You got to throw this shot over.
Sure.
And do it quick. He goes, and do it quickly.
How about?
So I get up, hit the button, throw a double, make the finals.
How about he came down
for the bowlers?
How about he came down the one time and we had waited. There was a breakdown, and what do you get? 1 on the opposite lane or 2 on the opposite lane to start on. So Smitty comes down. He goes, "Geez, there's guys here." He said they were really slow. He said the machines are all fucked up. He says, and he's going like that. And then he says, "We're gonna let you practice." I said, "How long?" Let me know when you're loose. we threw about 5 or 6 shots on each lane. All the guys next to us were looking. Smitty comes down. "How you guys doing?" And I forget, one of the guys crossing goes, "Smitty, I just want to throw one at the 10." Go ahead, Banks. He goes, I mean, he was beautiful. He's a beautiful man. Me and Tommy Baker. Go ahead.
But then he would come up to you sometimes later in that round and just real quietly give you a little elbow. By the way, later tonight in the bar, little Miller Night on Ice would be nice for the Tiger.
Oh yeah,
Smitty never lacked having beers bought for him.
No, me and Tommy Baker were in Golden Pin lanes in Tucson. We're late in there one night, and Smitty comes in, and he was a little under the weather, to say the least, right? And something had ticked him off, and he had the briefcase, the attaché case that the assistant tournament director carried, and all of a sudden he just drops it in front of us, and he goes like this: "If I die right now," he pulls the 2 hands out with the 2 rings. He goes, "Both halls, babes." He looks at the 2 of us, that dude, me and Bakes, "Both halls, babes. One of the best. I don't care what happens here today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if I go tonight," he said, "I'm going out on top." And he was pasted. I hope he's not listening to this. Is Smitty still around?
Last I heard, he was a starter at Firestone Country Club a couple years ago. Then he no longer has that job. Can't imagine why.
Well, after the way he introduced you at the Pro-Am.
No, dude, you can't do that. We're not doing that.
Okay.
No, we're not doing that.
Well, also
there are some stories that need to stay in the 80s.
Yeah. Also, Smitty,
we're going to stop that one.
Well, Smitty told me the one time, he said, "Hutch, you know what I want to do? What was his goal? I want to be able to go out there one day and do the whole Pro-Am without a sheet paper, introduce everybody and their credentials, right?" So the one time he went out, and I think he had Charlie at 78,000 for the first half of the winter. And Charlie, he goes like, and the next guy, the big guy, he goes from St. Paul. What do you got, Charlie, this year? About 72, 78,000? Charlie goes, "Whatever you say, babes." He goes like that, right? And he's going down, and then he forgot like 10 of the guys. I mean, remember he went from he went from 9 and 10 like to 39 and 40. Yeah. Just turned around. He says, from lane 10. Then he goes like on lane 28. It was, God love him. He was beautiful. He was beautiful, and he was a great bowler. Chris, because of Smitty, they changed the rules.
Yeah,
Smitty had a time when I think there was 11 tournaments. Out of 11 tournaments, he led 9 of the qualifiers. It's a long time ago. And at that time, some of them, they said he was 300 pins ahead. And the guys, the so-called other pros, actually went and complained. A lot of the lesser pros, not Carter or Weber, them guys, complained. And they actually zeroed the qualifying pins for a while. Everybody started over even. And Smitty, a lot of them tournaments, there was no show. He was coming in second or third. Smitty could have 20 pretty easy. Smitty was great.
Man, I think we should go back to that right now. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, Jason would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. See that. Especially them 54-game qualifiers. Yeah, you can't keep him. You can't keep him off the show with a team with Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded the gates to Hades. Little mythology for the boys.
There you go.
I don't think it's the 54 games. I think it's the 50 or 100,000 on top. I don't think it'd matter how many games we bowled if they put that much money up top.
So you're saying when the money's big on top, Jason's concentration gets a little better, a little quicker.
Yeah, smidge. Not quite so flow bowling Hall of Fame. I don't think.
There you go.
Well, I tell you what, we go back. Mark and I go back. I thought that the prize fund for the U.S. Open was a disaster. I mean, 2 weeks before there's 100,000 on first. The week before 75,000, and here now you bowl the most prestigious tournament ever because the U.S. Open was the All-Star. It was the tournament of tournaments, and 30,000 first was an embarrassment. Of course, it was whoever is involved with the money. It's
better than having no tournament.
Right. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're still at a point where winning a bowling tournament doesn't change your life, like winning a golf tournament or a tennis tournament.
Yeah.
Doesn't change your life.
Hey, the Tapper's coming back in again. He wants to know about the Alex Cortizan Buffalo story.
No, Alex Cortez, the mayor of La Puente.
Oh,
the mayor of La Puente.
He passed away last year.
Yeah, he just passed away. We're bowling in Buffalo, and it's one of your favorite places, Cheektowaga.
Yeah,
that's where the angle of yours vanished. It was reconstructed. So anyway, there's all kinds of breakdowns in there. The air conditioning broke down the one year. They actually, are you ready for this, Chris? They actually let the guys bowl in shorts.
Wow.
The guys could bowl in shorts. It was in the 90s in Buffalo. No air conditioning in place. And of course, they cooled it off. They opened the doors at both ends, so they let all that humidity in. Everybody was sticking on the approaches. And that's when Gus Lampo had a great line for me. He said, Hutch, the only way they could make these lanes more difficult was Dobermans at the ball returns and hurdles on the approaches. And I pictured the hurdles, 1, 2, yup, 3, 4, yup. Everybody's Edwin Moses. So anyway, they called Goose to come down, and the lady at the desk said, well, he's busy. He's right here. Well, have him come down. And so Alex says to Charlie, you got to smoke? And he goes, no. And Charlie says to him, says to the lady, oh, when Goose is on the way down, ask him to stop at the cigarette machine and get 2 packs of Marlboros for me and Alex, right? And the lady must say that to him, right? So Goose comes down, and he very officious, and he said doing what he has to do and everything. So finally he's getting ready to walk away, and Alex turns around and looks and says to him, Goose. And he goes, yeah, Alex, what do you want? He says, the Marlboros. Like that. And Goose actually paused for a split second, and he says, don't you guys ever do that again with that bent finger. Remember the finger? You're right. Remember the bent finger? He says, don't you guys ever do that again. And,
that's for Dave Husted.
Yeah, and Charlie looks, he says, we'll be on the late pro-ams now for the rest of our life. Yeah, there's a lot of characters. Mark has it best.
We basically ran away and joined the circus.
Just going to say, one of the best lines ever at the camp is it's the truth, and it was
200 guys.
Oh,
because everybody always forgets there was 100 guys that could bowl, or 50 guys that could really bowl. Same as today. The top 20 guys were the same top 20 guys.
Mm-hmm.
You watch them both practice, you could pick out who the players were. It wasn't real hard. The first time you watched Brian Voss bowl, okay, there's a spot. Or you watch Husted or Westlake or Farrar or Albee. The same guys were the same guys.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had another between 30 and 50 were pretty good. Then we had another 50 guys that are on tour because they didn't want to get a job. They get a sponsor. Yeah. You could be gone for 35 weeks and get paid. You get $1,200 a week. You only spend 8. You make $400 a week to be on tour. And then you had another 70, 80 guys who were the rabbits, and that was the circus because there were some odd dudes that bowled on tour. I mean, they were like just different guys. They weren't even the best player in their town. They just happened to be on tour, and they would come out for 5 or 6 weeks. So there were literally 200 guys every week on tour. So there was all kinds of craziness going on. It was never boring.
Yeah, but you can remember, Mark, that when the PTQs were at their height, that we actually had full-time touring PTQ guys.
Right.
They were
guys
every
2-3 years, bowl 30 stops each. And probably
Every
get
tournament, yes. And when I first went out, I bowled one of the first PTQs ever. It was in Kansas City, 1976. And you put up the whole amount of the tournament entry at the time to bowl. And if you didn't make it, it just went into the prize fund. Of course, the entry fee wasn't as like it is now. But I remember not knowing anything about, like, scores. John Edelberg is the assistant tournament director at the time. You weren't out there yet, Mark. And I shoot 185 over for the 10 games in the PTQ. I'm on A squad, and I walk into John Edelberg, and I'm a little nervous, because I already put the money up. And I said to him, "How do I look?" He goes, "What do you got?" I said, "I'm mumbling." I said, "I'm plus 185." He said, "Congratulations." He says, "You're leading." I said, "What?" He said, "You're leading A squad." I went, "I'm safe." He goes, "If you don't make it," he said, I'll go back to New Jersey. He goes, so I made that thing. That's where I bowled with Barry the first time. And Barry was just starting to get in, had that problem where he couldn't get started.
Hang on just a second, guys, before you go into this. We do lead into the Storm show, right? Are they on today?
They are, yes, but we're not on the Storm page.
Right. But we want to tell people, if you want to listen to
Hank Boomershine.
Yeah, Hank Boomershine. They'll be starting here in a few minutes. I think we got a few more stories here, so I think we'll keep going. Plus, we have 10 frames with Joe. So, but we want to tell people, if you want to listen to Hank's show over on the Storm Bowling page. Hey,
heads up.
Yep. This thing turned into a train wreck right here.
How did Carissa's career end? He got decapitated on the Beef and Barnzy show.
Right. But I'm crossing with Barry, and he's got the front 11.
I'll be right back. You guys keep talking.
Okay. It's on the front 11, and Barry's having trouble getting started, and this is the truth. And I'm sitting on the edge of the bench. It's an old-time bowling center, Overland Park in Kansas. And he picks up the ball for the 12th shot. It's a yellow dot. And his feet are going, and his arms are going, but he's not moving. And I don't know how long he was on the approach. When he finally threw the ball, it went over the arrows. When it went over the arrows, it was 3 feet in the air. And it went high flush for a 4-pin. And I thought he would be amazed that he got it. But the way he spun around and yelled no, he was pissed off because he didn't get a strike, right? And I had watched Barry on television, and Barry's one of the best ever. And in my first tournament on the winter tour to bowl with him, and we had a little trouble that tournament with the scorekeeper. And I'm new on this winter tour, and I'm really watching everybody out there. All the guys are out there now because of national television. And the lady was so nervous keeping score that I'm sitting next to her, literally at the score table. That old time thing with the wax pencils and stuff like that. And let's say Mark bowls and he has 9 spare in the first frame. So she throws the next ball and gets 9, and she's looking at me, and I go, 19. And she goes, okay, thanks, right? So about the 3rd frame or 4th frame, I'm sitting next to her, and I'm literally telling her what to write. Barry comes back, and he's not having a good game. And he looks at me, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said to him, "Well, she's a little nervous." "Well, she's a little nervous." "I don't care how nervous she is." He says, "You have to concentrate on this." He says, he calls for Goose. Goose comes down. Barry was nice about it. He says, "Listen, the lady was nice enough to volunteer, but she's too nervous. She can't." She was literally, wringing her hands. And Goose got someone else to come down. And Barry said to me, "Don't let me ever see you do that again. You're here to bowl." He said, "It was nice you were helping." He says, "But he says, we got to get competent people to do the job." He might have been a little more forceful than that, but he was he was a special guy. Barry, when he gets something under his craw, he was but he's a great bowler. You saw him in his best.
I never did. His best was before I became a bowler, so he was really like 71, 72.
Oh, I thought in Southern Cal you might have saw him.
Nah, 72. I was shooting jump shots. I hadn't ventured into a bowling alley just yet.
All right, man. All right.
Well, my dad was a big fan, so we would watch on Saturdays. And it seemed like Johnny Petraglia was on a lot before Earl took over, and Barry was local. I lived in Garden Grove. He lived in Costa Mesa. So when a guy that was from your area made the show, it was a really big deal. And Barry bowled really good and made a lot of shows. So I knew who Barry was. I didn't know anything about bowling. I just knew that I didn't bowl. But my dad really enjoyed bowling and liked to watch it on Saturdays, like everybody else did. So, Stu, as you can see, we just have more stories because we just bowled more weeks. If you guys bowled 30, think about it. When you guys go away for a month now, don't you guys think that's being gone a long time?
At times, yeah. Although I would venture to say that this last 6 weeks was longer than any 35 weeks on tour.
I guarantee you that's a 100% agreement. But like we would have our fall tour and it would only be 6 weeks. So for us, a 6-week tour was really short. Like it barely started and it was over. So when you're traveling for 8-10 weeks together with somebody and you spend a lot of time in the car, you can, you get to know somebody a little bit different. So let it tell this story. Speaking of cars, he's lucky he's here to give this story, because there was actually one time I did try to physically hurt him. I made the show in Miami.
Yep.
And we're driving to Sarasota, and we get across Alligator Alley. Hutch did that driving. We had, Florida, they basically gave away the rent-a-cars, like $50 for a Cadillac for the week.
Yeah. We had the Cad.
We had the caddy. So now we got across Alligator Alley. So now he decides he's tired, because if you've ever traveled with Hutch,
he made the
Hutch
show.
is allergic to leather. Hutch is allergic to leather. It makes him sleepy.
Mark makes
the show everywhere.
And he loses the game. Ozio beat you, right?
No, I won the first two. I beat Lotto and Walter, and I lost to Daryl Bauer, and then Ozio beat him.
Okay, so I knew Ozio was on the show. So we get in the car, and we're going to drive. It's about 180 miles.
Once we get on the other over there on the other side of the coast of Florida, right on the Gulf Coast.
So anyway, I drive, a pretty good leg. I go about the first 20 miles, and I said to Mark, well, I'm pretty tired. He's wound up from the show. I mean, Chris, you've seen him wound up. He's wound up like wow.
Only when
so I said, and he had seen me with my feet off the pedals, and the driving, and I would get the cruise going. We're doing like 65, 70. So I said, Mark, you want to drive a little tired? He goes, yeah, I'll drive. So we pull over and whatever. And I said to him, listen, I said, the cruise, it's a little touchy. I said, right here on the right-hand side, and turn on the where the wipers are. I said, there's a little button here at the end of the rod. You just got to press it in. I said, it may not catch the first time. You got to hold it in. I said, might have to manipulate it a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I put my feet up. I put my feet up on the dash, and the front. The car was beautiful leather seats. I'm leaned back, and everything. So Mark, pulls out on the highway, and all you hear is, he gets it up, and there goes that index finger in there, boom, and he lets it go, and all you hear is, okay, and he looks, now he starts like, God, he's saying, I went like this to him, patience, I said, I told you, it's a little touchy. So anyway, finally, I don't know how many times later, I'm pretty much almost gone, and I hear him say, there it is. And I open my eyes and I look. As soon as I do that, the nose of the car goes down. Now he's punching the wheels.
So it's basically 150 miles that I tried to get the cruise control to work for 150 miles. So now we're about 4 or 5 tries into this thing. Hutch says, hey, once we get to the hotel, I have something very important to tell you.
Very important.
We got 150 miles to drive, dude. Tell me now. No, I can't tell you now. I can only tell you when we get to the hotel.
It wasn't
so for the next 150 miles, I was pushing that button, going faster, slower. I just basically held it. I had my foot on the gas and my foot on the button for the last 50 miles. So it actually did work. But it was a self cruise control. So now we get to the hotel. We're staying at the Best Western in Sarasota or Venice, somewhere over there. We're both in the U.S. Open. So we pull in there, and we finally get to the hotel, and I turn to Hutch, and I go, okay, what was so important you had to tell me?
Now, wait a minute. When you turned to me, I was asleep. You gave me a whack in the ribs. You go, hey, we're here. I like this. Yeah, okay. And I'm ready to get out of the car. He says, no, wait. What did you have to tell me that was so important? I said, I said, the cruise control. He goes, yeah. He said, that pain in the ass. He said, I couldn't get it to work, blah, blah, blah. I said, and I put my feet down off the dash. I said, you see this switcher? It has to be up here for the cruise to be on.
On the dashboard of the Cadillac, it had the word cruise control on and off. Right. He had his left foot on the control the whole 180 miles. I never saw that little contraption.
So now, Stewie, you ready? In that split second that he looks away from me like this and looks at the cruise, I got my hand on the door, on the handle, right? I open that door, and now he lunges at me, jumps at me, right? And I can still feel his nails going down my back. I'm coming. He's laying across the thing. I lay out on the thing. I go running across the park lot. Here he comes crawling out of the car, right?
I come out the wrong side of the car.
Yes, he's coming out, and I run into the lobby, and I looked. The lady looks at me. I come in, and the lady looks at me. I said, I go like this, quick. I said, call the police. There's a lunatic out in the lot. I think he's after me. I'm not sure. I'm going crazy, right? And she goes, you're kidding. No. And about seconds later, he bangs open the doors. And he looks at me and he goes like this, I'm going to kill you. And the lady looks at me. He goes, is that who you're talking about? And I look like I'm squinting. I go, yeah, that kind of looks like it could be him. I'm not sure. You know, he's walking down. He stands next to me. And as he's standing next to me, he's like making like he's punching. He's going, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. You're going to die. I'm going to kill you. And all of a sudden, Mark goes like this, you got a room for 2 under Baker? And she goes, yeah. She goes, you too? We go, yeah.
True story.
God. It was a good.
It was a little bit of fun.
Oh, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We rented a car in St. Louis. Rented Ugly Duckling rented a car. It was $6 a day. We rented a deuce and a quarter. Electra 225 was
what
white
happened
on white.
was we bowled in an area that wasn't doing. You know, it was
it was
were
white
stealing
on
cars.
Yeah, white
So
on white on white, right?
We drive in the bowling center, and like the first day, 4 or 5 vans get taken.
Yes.
Because we bowled in the really nice parts of town. 4 or 5 vans get taken, so we're like, we can't have this rent-a-car. They're going to steal our car. So what are we going to do? And back then they had a thing called Ugly Duckling Rent-A-Car. It was basically the cars that barely ran. They didn't even offer insurance. They wanted you to steal it. So we turned in our car. We go over to Ugly Duckling Rent-A-Car, and the first thing we said, what is the very worst car that you can rent us on the lot? And the guy knew immediately which car to sell us. He goes, oh, I got this Electra. He takes it out, and he goes, I know it's winter. It's January in St. Louis. The windows don't work. Immediately at the same time, we say, we'll take it.
That's right.
So $6 a day, no insurance. It snowed every day. We never rolled the windows up. Car, we parked in the front, never locked the door, in our hotel, never got stolen.
Yeah, it was a white car with white leather interior with a white vinyl roof. It was white on white on white, and you had 2 very Caucasian people in the car, especially me from the ankles down. Tell them. Yeah, but we won't go into that.
Hutch was a little white.
Right. Well, you know, what am I going to say? You know, I mean, I'm not as
never
white.
saw the sun.
I wasn't as white as Mattingly.
Yeah.
But God bless him. But yeah, but I mean, we had a lot of crazy times just being in the right place at the right time. You guys ever heard Mark? Remember John Pacific?
Yeah, he could tear the phone book in half.
Yeah, right.
We had a guy
out there that could tear a phone book in half. Now he only bowled a couple turns, but he went on the senior tour and he made a show. Right. We're bowling in Syracuse, Holiday Bowl. Paddock was downstairs. I go downstairs to work on a bowling ball, and the bench. And remember, you had the Black and Decker drill, and you put the chuck in there and turn. So I'm trying to get the bit out that's in there, Chris, and I can't get it out. And every time I put the chuck in, I go to turn it, slip off. So Johnny Petraglia walks in. He says, "What's up, Hutch?" I think, let me see. So he tries, and so Huey comes down. That's nicknamed Dave Davis. Dave Davis comes down. Dave has a tremendous grip strength. I'm not exaggerating. So he tries it, and he goes to me, "This must be stripped. It's not going to come out." Out of the back room, unbeknownst to us, comes John Pacific. He's walking out, and he's got a bowling ball in his hand, and he looked like a refrigerator with arms. Remember how big he was? And he goes, "What's the problem?" And Davis goes, Hutch has got to work on a ball, and the chuck is stripped or someone had the bit. He goes, "What do you mean? I just used it a second ago." He puts it in and just goes crack, and it opens. He goes, "Here you go." Dave Davis and Johnny Petraglia look. He goes, he says, "Why is he bowling? Why isn't he on the arm wrestling tour?" You know what I mean? He was a monster. He made the famous statement that if he had good legs, the tour wouldn't have even known who Earl Anthony was.
It's funny you should say about ripping the phone book in half.
Yeah.
We have the equivalent on tour now. Tom Hess ripped a chamois in half.
There you go.
Chamois would be tough, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. But I mean, yeah, but this guy, John Pacific, he would throw the ball. If he was on 18 and you were on 19, you had to wait till he was done because his follow through would come over to the middle, to the big dot on 19. Remember the follow through we had, Mark?
We had
right.
The games were much more unique back then.
He was bowling on, let's say, 19. Carmen was on 18. And we were bowling late at night, and the lanes were hooking, and John was playing like in 20. Well, he stood. So Carmen says to him, "Wait a minute. Are you playing the gutter on my lane, or are you playing the fort there on your lane?" That's where he was standing. And John started like we were there, and he just went up and threw this ball, this big follow through, and he was a character. How about Bill Beach? You don't remember him? You guys don't know him. Mark, remember him?
I know who he was.
Bill Beach. Give you a good one. When I first go on tour, I meet him. He's a terrific bowler. He won the Masters, and he won the LA Open at Arcadia, I believe, one year.
Beat Soper.
Yeah. Joe Nuzzo. Yeah, Soper led. Joe Nuzzo from Youngstown is going to pick Bill Beach up in Sharon, Pennsylvania on the way to Baltimore. Okay? People know that. When Joe Nuzzo gets to Baltimore, he's the only guy in the car. So everybody goes like, and even Goose goes, "Joe, where's Bill?" He said, "When I pulled into his driveway," you ready? This is before tote bags, before the totes. He said he had 60 bowling balls lining his driveway, 30 on each side in single bags. Joe had a Monza, a Chevrolet Monza. And he says to Bill, "Which ones are we taking?" You know what he told him? He said, "I'm not sure yet." And guess what? He never made a decision. He called Goose and canceled out of the tournament. And they were all rubber balls. Chris, they were all rubber balls and plastic balls. Can you imagine him today?
A man before his time.
Oh, he was.
He'd fit in perfect with this new crew.
Yeah. How about Buckley? That's before my Well,
time.
you talked to Asher and Buckley. You got to know Roy. I think he's in his early 80s now. Buckley was arguably the funniest guy on tour who didn't say hardly a word. Right? He's bowling a regional tournament in Ohio. The first 6 games of qualifying, he goes 1600, 1606, 802, 804. The guy in between the squad, I don't know if it was Muriel or somebody was sponsored. They had a sponsor. The local paper is interviewing him. Now, Roy, he had to know this guy. He said, "So, Roy, you're the leader, blah, blah, blah. How did you find the lanes?" 1600. And Roy goes, "Well, they were kind of to my liking." So the guy's writing that down because Roy's telling me the story one time, and Barry will tell you the same thing. He said, "Well, did you find anything bothersome about the lanes?" And Roy goes, "Yeah, every once in a while that 4-pin was giving me trouble." Okay. So they go out, everybody break, the squad goes out again. The reporter goes out to watch him throw the while. Roy starts the first game with the first 8 in a row. Leaves the 4-pin in 9th frame, turns around, looks at the reporter. He goes, "See, did I tell you? There it is again. What a pest." It's like that. God's honest truth. Funny man.
Jimmy
Funny man.
Callahan.
First time Buckley ever makes the show. Waylu's doing the color, and Waylu was a guy that like guys who hooked the ball. Roy threw it straight as a string. Chris, he was sliding on 20 when he was playing 17. Okay. When he throws the first ball, I'll never forget. Waylu looks at whoever was doing. I don't know if it was Chris or Bud Palmer or something. He goes, "Where did they find this guy?" That's how straight he threw it. And Buckley winds up winning 8 or 9 times in the PBA Hall of Fame. He's a great bowler. Great bowler. A lot of guys.
So
Waylu, I never met Waylu.
Looks like Jimmy Callahan wants to know if you have any stories about Lenny Guccione.
How many? Lenny and Larry Matthews didn't get along. Well, of course, Larry Matthews Mark. You knew Larry.
I knew
and Larry was in between driving NASCAR and going for the UFC national title. He bowled on the tour, but he was a character, Larry. And they had Lenny and him got in a couple arguments when Larry was living up in Denver, and Larry threatened to break him in half, and you couldn't break Lenny in half with a machine. He was a monster. So anyway, we're in Denver, we're somewhere up in that area in the winter. It was snowing, and we all go to dinner. And at the dinner table, and it's hard for you to believe, I start really berating Larry Matthews. I mean, just on him. I'm on him like a cheap suit. But it's only in jest, honest to God, because Charlie's there and everybody, and Lenny's there, and Lenny's looking at Larry, and he's not smoking the cigarettes. He's just chewing them. They're just going down, right? All of a sudden, Larry gets up and he goes, like the way he used to go. He says, "I've had enough. I'm leaving." He goes over to the bar and he says, "Call me a cab." And the bar there, I'm waiting for him to look and go, "You're a cab," but he didn't. He walks outside, and a couple minutes go by, and I said to Charlie, "I better go outside and get him. He might freeze out there." I stand up. Lenny pokes me in the chest with his index finger. And I thought it got stuck in my ventricle. I thought I was going to die, right? He goes, he gets to me, but the cigarette, takes the cigarette out of his mouth. He goes, where do you think you're going? I said, oh, Larry's outside. That's right. He said, do you notice how the mood in here has changed? How nice it is now? Calm. See how calm I am? He said, if you go out and get him, I'm afraid I may have to do surgery on you without a knife. I said, Charlie goes, where are you going? I said, too bad for Larry. I said, we might go outside. He might be a popsicle. Go outside. Me and Charlie befriended Lenny. And he took to us and he was, you know, I found out a couple things about him, and he was a sweetheart. He was a sweetheart. He had a chance to make one finals on the tour in Portland. It was in Portland. He was in 6th place. Geez, I hope he's not watching this. If he is, Mark, I can't go to Vegas anymore. But he was in 6th. He was in 6th place with 6 games to go. And the guys, when you ready, the guys were actually betting on whether he would make it or not, right? And he comes out and he is so nervous that he does not make the finals and he does not cash. And he leaves in such a fit of rage, throwing things. The Goose was trying to find him, trying to find him and give him a fine slip. He came in the paddock. He was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that mad. I mean, because he was mad when he was bowling 250. You can imagine if he's had 6 games like under 160. He was beside himself. There was 2 of them when he walked in, and they were just button heads. I hate to tell you guys this, but my phone is on 5%.
All right. Well, we'll get your story in here. You've both had some Earl stories. He was the man during that period. So
yeah, go ahead. I'm going to plug it in. Go ahead, Chris.
Earl and I crossed together. I had a little bit of a temper. So I think Harry Golden put me with Earl pretty much every week, because if I bowled Earl, I never got mad, because there was only like 80 people in the bowling alley for A squad. Well, 75 were watching Earl. So if you're bowling with Earl, you never really acted out.
Something just happened.
So one of my first 300s I ever bowled on tour, I'm crossing with Earl in Milwaukee. We're both leading off, so we're doing, whoever gets done first does the scores. Milwaukee was a 2-sided joint, and the walk between sides was, a fairly long walk. Earl gets done first. I don't know what he's bowling. I bowl 300. He never gives me, he was, that's cool. Never gave me 5. I shoot 300. It doesn't acknowledge it, because all he said was, hey, kid, why don't you do the scores? I'm going to go to the paddock and switch balls. So under my breath, I said something to the effect, like, you're such a prick. So I said something like that, and he heard me. So he asked me, what did you say, kid? And I said, I didn't stutter. All I remember was a scorekeeper. She just backed out of the settee. Earl didn't say a word to me. I didn't say a word to Earl. So now we got 3 more games to bowl on the other side. So we finished our 3 games. We're done 11 o'clock in the morning. And now I'm laughing about it, because I'm telling Houston, you're not going to believe what I did now. And he's like, what have you done now? So I told him the story. He goes, Earl's strong. You don't want to tangle with Earl. I'm like, well, he's Earl Anthony. I'm not going to get in a fist fight with the guy, but we got to bowl 12 more games. So we get done, put my balls on the rack in the paddock, and next thing you know, somebody grabs me by the neck. I mean, they got the vice on my neck, so I can't turn my head, so I don't know who's behind me. And next thing you know, the other hand puts a beer in front of my face. And he's holding it here, and he got the beer here, and he gets right in my ear, and he goes, hey, kid, that was a hell of a game. I'm not out here to be your babysitter. I hope you shoot 105 every game the rest of your life. I'll see you tonight. Good bowling. So then we get done. I go to the pair, 3 hours later. It's not even to apologize. I go up to apologize. He goes, no apologize necessary. Don't ever forget one thing. You're on tour. I'm at work. Stay out of my way. That was Earl Anthony. So he was the best. It was his job. We were on tour. We have these stories. Earl was there to win. We were there to bowl good and have a good time. But that was my one story with Earl. And then we became really good friends. I ended up winning at his house. I won a couple of regionals at his house, a tour stop. He was a very, very nice man. After he quit the tour, he became a great guy. Because when he bowled, he was the intimidation factor. He was going to beat you. He was just going to beat you. But he was scary good. He was the best I ever seen, him and Roth, by far. All the stories about Earl, or how accurate he was, were true. He could hit the same thing over and over. And over and over and over. He was tough.
Oh. So it looks like we've managed to lose Joe here. So
Yeah, we'll see if we can get him back on. I don't know if his phone died officially or if we're trying to get I sent him a text to just to rejoin in here. We'll see if he can get it.
I was about to say, we could. I don't know that we had the proper 10 questions, the updated list when Baker was on last time.
I did such a poor job the first time.
Yeah, but the questions are much more to the point now.
Instead of the ambiguous ones.
They're a little better than they used to be. I mean, there's some of the same ones, of course. We can move them around. I had them set up for Hutch, but we can throw you in. By the way, you are going to be part of the show on Friday and come in.
Look forward to it.
And now that some centers are opening up, it seems timely to talk about what you can do to get yourself in shape a little bit. Try and keep yourself from getting injured when you run back out there. And
exactly.
So we're going to cover a lot of that on Friday, as well as maybe touch a little bit on the impending draft, which has a date now. So,
yeah,
excellent.
For those of you who did see it or didn't see it, depending on Facebook or Flow Bowling, May the 17th is going to be draft night. It's going to be on, I believe, on the PBA's Facebook channel, streamed. So yeah, should be entertaining. I'm sure Mark's been doing his homework on the lists.
I got the list right here above me on my desk. I got it all printed out. I got the green line to the names I'm not picking, so I've got about 60 guys left. This could go a lot of different ways. Your mock draft went so different 2 times in a row. It was amazing who was taken early. It was amazing who was left late. So it'll be, I'm sure when we actually do it for real, it'll be something completely different.
I'm back.
Hutch is back.
There you go. He can do the questions.
Mark, I had 73% on the phone when I started. It went dead.
Yeah, the live stream, so they'll suck it down a little bit.
I didn't have it
quick.
I didn't have it plugged in, so now we're okay. So what were you guys talking about?
We're just getting that to the last section here, Hutch. You've got to do your rapid fire 10 questions.
And Mark just told a story about Earl Anthony, and then
Can I tell you one about Earl?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you the one about in Miami in the Pro-Am, Mark.
All right.
I'm bowling next to Earl in the Pro-Am. I already know him. It's he was bowling in Kendall, and you would probably know the family. They used to come out and watch us all the time, and the daughter used to date Cliff Saliba at one time. Anyway, we're next to him, and the family's following him, and he's got like 200 games, and so anyway, the one lady calls him back, and she says, "Well, you're gonna bowl a game, or if you're not, we'll go to dinner. We'll see you later," and stuff like that. And he says, "Well, what do you mean game? What do you mean game?" She says, "Well, I don't know." And she mentions the word 300. He goes, 300? God, I don't know, but 300. That's not. They don't grow on trees. So I'm sitting next to him. I got 24 balls in the pocket. I got like 408 for 2 games, right? And he throws his first shot. And when he had that stuff going in the mid lane, and it was just facing up. Wow. So he starts with a strike, and he turns around to her and he says, "Let me see you after this shot." Second frame he throws, and it looks like a carbon copy. So he comes back and he says to her, "How about 297? 297. She goes, "What? He said 297. Okay. So I'm, he next to him. Now I'm more affixed on what he's doing than me. 3 in a row, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row. And I'm telling Chris the story the other day. I'm thinking to myself, I'm bowling this guy for money. And I got another 2-0 going. He's calling 290. 10th one flush. 11th one flush. I don't know what he does, whether he makes a 3 and 1 or maybe moves his feet like two left or 2 right and his eyes 1 left. Throws it out. Everybody in the back, because now everybody's behind him. As soon as he lets it go, everybody in the back yells, "Hook." Well, when Earl threw it, that wasn't going to mean much. He leaves the 136 cold. Everybody's, oh. The lady in the back stands up and applauds. Right? So I'm looking now I'm saying to myself, geez, it isn't too far for me to drive home to Scranton, because I don't think I got much of a chance against this guy if he can call 297. And he's putting the balls in the bag, and he would be looking down like this, and he looks at me, and I'm looking at him, and he gave me a wink out of his right eye. He just winked at me. And I said, "Oh my God." So I went. That's when I said. That's when I told Charlie. I said, I think we got to go home. What do you mean? I said.
So that reminds. So Earl and I had our run in the winter of '82 in Milwaukee. Now we're bowling the fall of '82 in Syracuse.
Okay.
And I didn't bowl when you're a rabbit. I just got exempt in '82. '81 I was a rabbit. '82. So you don't bowl very many pro-ams yet. You haven't made a show. You're basically a nobody.
That's
You're just an entry fee to pay for Roth's car payment. That's all you are. That's what it felt like. So I'm bowling the pro-am in Syracuse, and I get the lanes are really bad because we had a Phantom report the next day. And lanes got better, but they were basically impossible. So I've got 55 in the fifth, and so now I've got I think I got 90 something in the ninth. I have to spare in a tenth to shoot 100. So I get a spare. I shoot 109. Now I'm getting to go to the next pair. The pair I was on. While I was doing this, a guy was just letting me have it. I paid $40 to bowl the pro-am. They gave me some guy from California who can't make a spare. You're not really a pro. He is lighting me up. Earl's bowling next to me in the pro-am. So I shoot my 100, and then the guy comes over, and the guy in a loud voice goes, "Thank God we finally have a real pro on our pair." So I move pairs. I can't feel any worse. I was trying, and I shot 110. So now Earl gets on this guy's pair, and just like Hutch did, he looks over at me, and Earl says to me, he goes, "Watch this." Earl shoots 123 the next game in the pro-am. He chopped every spare he left. Either the 4-7 or the bucket. He basically chopped it on command for 10 frames. And he got done, and I looked down and went, "Wow." And he goes, "Don't ever let him get you down, kid. It's just the pro-am."
That's right.
That's how good of a guy Earl was.
Well,
he was off in the pro-am to pit so that guy couldn't say anything. And that was when Earl and I became real good friends.
Mark, Chris, I got to tell you this one. I told you about the one up in Seattle. Leilani Lanes, 1976 PBA National Championship. Only reason I went there is because it was an open tournament. I was in the PTQs, and this is how smart I was. The next tournament was in Portland. I didn't even arrange to go there. I was going to fly to Seattle and fly home. A little expensive thing for one week. But I make the finals, throwing the ball really well. I'm in 10th place. Remember Dave Bash?
Yeah.
Okay. Bash is doing the board, as usual. He was doing the board. I'm on the last pair on the high end. Leilani, I think, was a 32-lane place. And Bash says to me, "Hey, Hutchie, you bowling pretty good." I went, yeah. "Who you bowling this game?" I said, "I don't know. What's on the sheet?" I look, I said, "Hey, I'm bowling Earl." And Bash goes like this, "I want you to crush this guy. I want you to crush him. I hate him." "What do you mean you hate him?" He said, "He's too good." He said, "I'm sick of him." He said, "He's down there. He makes the 6-pin. The roof comes off the place. Another guy leaves a solid 8 against him. And one guy in the back goes, pretty lucky. He just about knocked the 10 out." Right? It's just crazy how it was. Right? So we bowl a game that mirrors each other, except he has 2 doubles and I have a double. I have a solid 8, a solid 10, let's say a 7-pin and a 4-pin. He has a solid 9. He has a 7-pin, a 6-pin, and a 10-pin. He 7 pins in the 9th frame. He now has 176 in the 8th on a spare in the 9th. I've got 167 in the 8th on a strike at 9th. He's finishing out. He's got 226 on his hand. I got 227 on my hand. The place is just hostile for him. I mean, he's if he didn't get a strike, there was this unbelievable groan. He's from there. Okay. He strikes out for 226. I come up, throwing a yellow dot. Long time ago. Ball comes off my hand. Nice. Half pocket. Head pin goes up off the 2, lands on the deck and starts rolling across the 10, that old dead fish flop messenger, right? And I'm like a lane over on my knees, and it hits the 10 mark, and it knocks it over. And just ahead of the machine, as the pin's rolling, all the people are going, "Oh, this crescendo builds to this. Oh," when it goes down, they yell, "No!" No. I go, "No, like, what did I run over? Some kid or something? Some cats? What did I do here, right?" So now I get PO'd, and Bash goes, "You see what I mean? See what I'm talking about? He's right next to me." Next one comes off my hand. And it's just perfect, and it's going down. Splits the 8-9. I see it hit, splits the 8-9. I'm standing at the foul line. I'm walking back, and I'm looking at the people. And I said, "How about that one? Is that okay?" He's sitting there with the score. I throw the next one. Until this day, God's honest truth, I turn around and start walking back, and I'm yelling at the people, "How's the luck on that one? How's that one look? Pretty good? Huh?" I'm screaming at him. Strike. Basher's bash. You got him. You made my day. He's going, you made my day, right? So bad, Joe. So Earl is doing the sheets. I don't know what he's going to say to me. And you can say, great guy. I walk up to him and I went like this. I'm shaking his hand. I put my head down low and I went, none of that was directed to you, just so you know. He said, nice job. He said, they got what they deserved. He said, I like your chances out here. And he walked to the next pair. He's a great guy. I thought he might punch me in the face when I walked back, but it was a different time in my life. I mean, we're just running with urine. We'll clean it up. We're just running in our veins with urine and vinegar. Like that, urine?
There you go.
You sound just like describing every tournament Chris has ever bowled on Long Island.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you bowl the guy, the local guy, but I mean, Earl was. I mean, he was so good. He really was. Of course, Mark read him wrong the first few weeks he saw him. That's one of the great stories at the camp when he calls his father. What'd you learn, son? Boy, this guy Anthony is over. He's overwritten. He said he can barely get the 5-pin out. I don't believe it. Meanwhile, I was calling his father for the third time for money in 6 weeks, and Jay Nick says to him, "Let me get this straight, son. Earl is having." He's nothing like.
He made the show every week.
Yeah, it's all the buildup. He says, so you're calling me for the third time for money in 6 weeks. He said in the first 5 weeks, he's made 4 shows. He said, I think you better go back there and study what the heck is going on.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Joe, I know you have a million more stories, and we may have to come back and get to some of those again later. We're already at the hour-and-a-half mark here. We do a 10 frames, and
okay.
And so this 10 frames with the legend.
What do you got to do?
The Da Nang Hall of Famer.
There you go, Mark.
Well, you might put that down for camp.
Careful.
But 10 quick questions. First thing that comes to mind, and there are no wrong answers here. So
that's when I'm at my best.
All right, the 10 frames. Where do you keep your best trophy?
Where do I keep it? I don't even. None of them are here anymore. They're all gone.
All right.
Landfill.
Yeah. Last house.
What's a lie you recently told?
Well, if my wife's watching this, I can't say it.
That's
Next
all you
question.
got to say. We're good.
Next
All right,
question.
there you go. Ever been in handcuffs?
One time. Overseas. Overseas.
All
Yes.
right.
That doesn't count.
Yeah.
Well, they were leading me up to accept the plaque for the Hall of Fame.
Of all the guys you roomed with, who was the biggest diva?
I can honestly, if anybody would, Pete Couture maybe. Pete's attitude sometimes was he could come across like he thought he was a little bit better, but gosh damn, he was terrific though. He always thought he was an underachiever. That's the way he was raised, and he always had that fight.
Dumbest way you've ever hurt yourself?
Anytime that I suffered an injury and continued to play what I had just got injured at doing, and that has been many times.
One thing you would have told the rookie Joe Hutchinson?
Have an attitude like Dave Houston.
Wow.
I wish.
At Dave Houston or Robin Romeo.
Huh.
Go with that.
That's about like me having a body like M. Leto or something. That's
You have a better chance of having a body like Amleto than you do having an attitude like Houston. And I say that with all love.
Yeah, there's a lot of love there. One thing you've done that you'll never do again.
Win a Pba National Tournament. I'll never do that again.
One shot you'd like back.
First shot in the 10th frame of the Masters 1980 against Burton on the show.
What happened?
Well, it's too long a story, but if I strike the first shot and the second shot, I have the look of the best look on the show. I'm going to run the show. I lost with the second highest game on the show that day, and in first place was 25,000. Like I said, they don't change your, but I did something stupid in the practice balls with like 2 minutes to go before airtime. I tried something and it worked, and I bowled, and I had 2 doubles and 4 spares in the first 8 frames. And guys, honest to God, I don't know where the hell the ball went off my hand. The 9th frame, I'm arguing with myself on the bench to go back to throwing the ball the way I was in practice. I'm actually arguing with myself to do this. I strike in the 9th frame. Now I'm calling myself. Now I'm calling myself all the dummies. I go up in the 10th frame. This is the truth. Now I shred the rack. I leave the 7 pin. Make the spare, strike on the fill ball. Bo needs a mark to beat me. He leaves the 1-2-4-8, and he makes it. Beats me 217, 213. My 213 is the second highest game on the show. I was the only guy striking. That's the show that Neil won, Burton. He beat Mark 2-0, 2-10. Bo beat Pappas the next game. Neil beat him 2-0, 2-0. I mean, I had the nuts and didn't know it.
It's amazing. Almost everybody has one. We've met a few that don't. Who's your celebrity crush?
It's an excellent question. You know, I
Betty White.
I don't really care much about that. I like a lot of them, but if I had a crush on anybody, not really. Not really. I don't. Mark's from California.
We got that to look forward to in old age, huh?
Kim Kardashian.
Oh,
Junk in the trunk.
there you go. All right, 10th frame. An impression we haven't heard yet.
Most of the impressions that I do are people that I grew up around that you wouldn't know. And because of my ability growing up with these people, most of these people are gone now. Because of my ability to do them, they'll never be gone. And when I do it around certain people, they know exactly who it is. So it's a flattering thing. I don't do many impressions of people, but I do physical characteristics that these guys did. These are the guys that I grew up at that bowling center I told you about. And I mimic their gestures and a lot of their little persnickety things that they did. And when I do it around anybody who ever saw them before, they knew, they pointed me and go exactly who that is. And that's pretty flattering because these guys had a very profound effect on my life.
Who's the favorite one he does, Bakes? Who's your favorite one he does?
He can do some guys from the Army pretty good. He's pretty funny at that. We got to probably keep that off here. That's not too. I mean, it's good when you're in the car. But when he starts making fun of the guys that own the deli at the bowling alley, the big guys making the roast beef sandwiches, that was. And I've heard all the stories about these guys. So then I got to go to Scranton and go to Southside Lanes, and I got to see the guys making the sandwiches. It made it even better because it was like word for word, all the mannerisms, how they made it, how they were basically rude to most of the customers, and they were packed. It was great. So I got to see it in real life, the guys he made fun of. So then the roast beef sandwiches were actually pretty good, so it's fun.
When Jimmy Cagney got the award from the American Film Institute, when he was signing off up at the podium, he said that all the guys that he did in the movies, like the hitching of the trousers and the snapping it, he said these were all guys that he saw in his section of New York City where he grew up when he was a kid. He said, and he kept those, and when he was called upon to act, that's what he did. So sometimes when I'm at the camp, I'm actually out on the lanes with the people. I'm actually talking to them like the guys from Scranton. They have no clue, but they find it funny with the mannerisms and like the pauses and the talking and everything, and making like I'm smoking when I never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've had guys say to me, how long have you been since you stopped smoking? 70 years. 70 years since I smoked. And even then I didn't, because my mother didn't either. You know what I'm talking about, Holmes?
Yeah. So Joe, when you were a rookie on tour, Joe used to walk around. He'd have the squad sheet or the score sheet. He'd have it rolled up like a long cigar, and he'd just walk around with it in his mouth, and he'd keep tapping the ashes on your shoulder. So you watch everybody in the paddock. We're constantly doing that, and he never had a cigarette in his mouth, but he always that was his prop. So
I used to roll a napkin up at Southside Bowl and walk around like I had a cigarette. So my buddy one time was talking to this girl, and she had a soda. And he introduced me. He said, Barbara, I want to introduce you to my friend Joe Hutchinson. I went like this. So I just went like this. How you doing? I went like this in her soda cup. She went, what are you doing? And she looks and she said, it's a napkin. I've been doing that forever. That's a great line. Or pulling the guy's pocket open. I say, excuse me, is this the ashtray? Thanks. Before he even has a chance to answer, you're good. Just forever forever the ball breaker.
It's been a great hour and a half going down memory lane, and for a lot of us hearing stories that we never heard about a different tour and a different world than what the PBA Tour is now. Thanks a lot for coming on and sharing those stories, and best of luck in your induction in Da Nang next year. I'm
going over there via outrigger canoe. Mark is going to row. I'm going down to size up the megaphone now from my lips.
What's this thing called? What's this boat called? Kontiki?
No. Hey, did you read the
Thor? Yeah, Thor. Yeah.
Did you read the thing I put on Facebook about Dennis Jakes?
Yeah, I saw that. The Dexter rep of Bermuda.
No. The Pacific. There's the Pacific. Now, Dennis, you guys, Stu, you know who Dennis Jakes is?
No, sir.
Stu,
he probably knows other people we've talked about.
He's so sheltered. Dennis won 3 or 4 times. He's a mountain of a guy. But he always seemed to have something going on. Like he was the Dexter shoe rep for Barbados. Like, what? Who gets that job? He went the AMF. Remember the picture on the motorcycle with the white excess with Leila? Right? Yeah. And I made a remark. I said, I wonder what Dennis is doing. I said, I heard he got all them leftover bowling balls and he sold them to the Navy. They're using them now for boat anchors. But anyway, I said like this. I said, for people that wonder where Dennis is, I just was in touch with him. He's in touch right now. He's in charge of the Pacific. He's going to be out there selling bowling equipment from one of the lesser brands, not as popular. I said, he's getting there via outrigger canoe. I said, there's one problem. Dennis is there. He doesn't like to row and no one else. So he just has the megaphone. He's promising that he will be there before monsoon season, though. That's how I said. So Charlie Tapp writes back. He says, this quarantine, he says, you're really bored, aren't you? I went, yeah. I write a lot of neat stuff. Just stupid stuff. Hey, thanks, Chris. Stewie, thanks, bud.
No problem, Joe. We appreciate it coming on and enlightening some of our guests about how it was back in the day. We've definitely had some a different audience come across today, that's for sure. There's
Sammy Ventura's on there now. Yeah, I see that. Maybe
Hutch fans, they're not Beef and Barnzy fans.
Hey, Mark, thanks for coming. I was hoping you'd be on. I was really
great.
hoping
Enjoy it.
I hope everything goes by October, pal.
So do I.
Yeah, man. So, Chris, thanks, bud. See if you can spring Linda out of boot camp, whatever's going on. But I'd love to be on again sometime, and Mark, or even with Charlie. I don't know if me and Charlie could be. That'd be tough to be on there because that'd be crazy. But
Charlie still owes me a royalty. He bowls in my bowling shirt. The only time my shirt made a show last year when he bowled on it in a senior stop with my shirt on. It's even got the same logos and everything.
He's a beautiful man, Charlie. He's a beautiful man. Okay, guys.
Thanks,
Mark,
I'll
love
see
you.
you guys on Friday.
Chris, take care.
Bye, Hutchie.
My pleasure.
All right, thanks, Joe. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Well,
so
marathon everywhere, and man, how good are those stories? It's like you said, it's a different life. Hey, one more thing while we're talking about people who've been around bowling a long time. It is my mother-in-law Midge's 82nd birthday today. She was a junior director. She's been around bowling literally forever, and so I want to make sure I wish her a happy birthday today. Glad. And glad we got to celebrate with somebody who maybe told some stories she might remember. So,
I have one quick thing. I have to give a plug for Frankie Lavoie. He's doing his happy hour on Thursday on his Facebook page. Yeah, you too, Charlie. He's got Bill O'Neill on this week, so I'm sure that Bill O'Neill is going to tear the two of them to ribbons. So definitely going to be worth a watch on that one.
Yeah, certainly. He's got him in accomplishments, and at one point, he pretty much equaled both their weights. Not anymore. Yeah.
No, that's true. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure that Frankie's going to come back fighting because Frankie might seem quite quiet, but I'm pretty sure when he's in charge of the directorship, that could be quite interesting.
Good. Friday again, we're going to have that. We're going to have Heather Derrico on, and she's going to talk about the PBA fitness and things that we can all do. And if you'd like Stu to be a demonstration model for this thing on Friday, make sure you go on the Beef and Barnzy page and like and comment. If we get enough likes, I think Stu might show up. Maybe we can get one of the wrestling onesies and yoga mat. I think that would be a great way to demonstrate how PBA players should work out and get ready for the PBA tour.
Heather's going to run me through my paces. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be here to encourage you, of course.
You'll be there for me. Thanks. Appreciate it.
There we go. Well, you got anything else?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for hanging tough with us today. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Friday should be good. I think we've got a pretty big surprise for you coming on Saturday. We're just going to get it penciled in and dot the I's and cross the T's. But I think you're going to be happy about Saturday.
All right. Well, there you got it. I think we got a big lineup coming actually through the weekend as well. So, but until then, go on Beef and Barnzy show page, comment about that, see if we can get Stu in a singlet. So for all our sponsors, Global Rotogrip, Vice, Turbo, Logo, Coolwick, 3G, Dexter, Master, and I don't think I left anybody out, but stay safe, stay healthy, and this will be on the lane soon. God bless.